I call the ABRSC to order. Good evening, y'all. Although we are in person tonight, members of the public who wish to view the meeting may use ActonTV's YouTube channel found on the top of the agenda. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on ActonTV's website at actontv.org. Welcome to Liz Fowlks, who is our new member from Boxborough. Yay! We welcomed our new Acton member, Rebecca Wilson, at our previous meeting, but welcome. Hi. And with that, I would like to call up Molly Norris, I believe, as our student rep. Are there any other student reps here tonight? Hey, sorry about that. Come on up, y'all.
Okay. Recently, when talking with Mr. Chorba about what I was going to talk about during this meeting, I learned that our school has gender-neutral bathrooms that are available to all students. Before talking about this with Mr. Chorba, my friends and I were not even aware of the fact that there were any gender-neutral bathrooms at all. I think there are a few situations to this problem. First of all, at the beginning of the year, we should make it more clear that there are gender-neutral bathrooms. One way we could do this is by sharing on the announcements for the first few days of school that there are gender-neutral bathrooms and where they are. This would make sure that anyone who wasn't there the first day or two would still be aware that there are gender-neutral bathrooms. Along with this, we should be sure to include information in the morning email for the first few weeks of school explaining more information about the gender-neutral bathrooms. And then around halfway through the school year, make sure to include that information in the morning email, again, which would help make sure everyone is still aware of the gender-neutral bathrooms. Due to this exposure, there will be a lot more students who are comfortable in their environment. Along with this, there are some larger changes that can be made as well. At Worcester Polytechnic Institute, they have made it so all bathrooms, including bathrooms and stalls, are gender neutral. This would ensure everyone was able to feel comfortable. A student named Evie Shoemaker, the person who organized the walkout against anti-queer legislation, said that students should not have to take time out of their classes to find a bathroom that makes them more comfortable. Everyone deserves to be comfortable in their school without it taking away from learning time. I hope you consider my proposal as the summer is coming up and changes would be able to be made. Thank you. Have a great night.
All right, so I'm really glad Molly shared that with you because that's extremely important for all of us. I have a little bit, so as the year comes to an end, I want to spend a brief moment reflecting on one of the wildest school years that we've been a part of. So we started this year finally bringing all of our students back in person and back into this new normal. And we got accustomed to getting boosters and wearing masks, and most importantly, being around one another again. And I remember, I don't know if many of you do, but at the beginning of the year, my biggest concern that I voiced was whether or not the high school's Wi-Fi could support all the new student-issued Chromebooks. And obviously, that's nowhere near the biggest challenge we faced this year. But whether it was controversial issues, such as dropping the mask mandate or the mascot debate, or smaller things like the R.J. Gray High School's WASP problem, we all came together and found solutions, or often things worked themselves out. So I just wanted to take this time to thank all of you for representing us this year and our best interests. And I'm excited to keep working with you all next year. I think this is going to be our last presentation. So yes, thank you all so much.
Thank you, and thank you to all of our student representatives. You've been amazing. It's been wonderful to have your presence here at our meetings. You've represented your school and your peers exceptionally well, and we wish you luck in all of your future adventures. All right, y'all. This is the time for public participation. Per policy PEDH, members of the public are invited to speak for up to 3 minutes regarding items that are not on the agenda. For items on the agenda, the public is asked to please wait for that item. The committee does not typically respond to comments during public participation. Do we have any public participation this evening? And although I am the substitute teacher, the expectation is still the same, that this will be civil. Thank you.
Hi, Christine Marlowe, Boxborough, Massachusetts. I'm here today because I want the best for the students that attend our schools. I want every student to be the best that they can be and be proud of themselves when they walk out the doors of our schools. So today I'm here with questions and suggestions on how we can ensure our students are getting an education in a learning environment where they can succeed. First, I have to ask the entire board and administration, if you really want the best for our students, why did you all vote to lay off 20 teachers' assistants? Have any of you been at an elementary school lately? If you had, you would know that we need more assistants, not less. Our children are struggling because of a year and a half of remote and hybrid learning. Their social behavior is on the rowdier and loud side. I can't believe that there was not 1 or 2 administrative positions that could have been trimmed back or laid off. Those positions have a lot more expense and are not as valuable as a teacher's assistant. Now our overburdened teachers will have more responsibility and less help. How is this good for our students? Also in the high school, how is getting rid of the AE level of learning good for our students? This is another area where AB excelled. It gave our students an opportunity to learn at a faster pace than the college prep, but not at the accelerated pace of honors. My children benefited so much from this structure, especially in college and the sciences. I say we bring back the AE track. It allows the students to be successful and ahead of the game in college. Third, when a student and or their family believe a teacher does not teach to the way that child learns, they should be able to change their teachers. Right now, it's an antiquated, unfair way. If you're the oldest child, you have no way of getting out if that teacher does not teach to your learning ability. If you are a younger child, but your sibling hasn't had that teacher, you don't get to get out of that. You talk about equity. Well, in this situation, the child who can get outside help will, and the child who can't get outside help will struggle and possibly fail. How is this equitable? This should be one of the first things that changes. Finally, how does not having midterms and finals prepare our children for the future? Colleges have midterms and finals. To be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, you have to be able to pass midterms and finals. If there are some subjects that make more sense to do a project or write a paper, then do that. But finals and midterms make sense for the most of the classes. Please bring them back. Please help our students reach the stars and be the best that they can be. And please consider these suggestions so our students can succeed at Acton Boxborough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Martin Benson, 21 Deacon Hunt Drive. It was noteworthy in your last meeting that a committee that prided itself on identifying a replacement mascot that was inclusive and culturally sensitive to the diversity of Acton Boxborough appears to have abruptly selected one that is troubling to a significant portion of the population. The lack of reaction from any member of the committee following the thoughtful comments of Yebin Wang was most striking. Mr. Wang cited both the dictionary definition of revolution as well as historical references. As he elaborated, revolution is, quote, not so rosy, and carries with it many troubling connotations, including violence and civil disorder. Revolutions have often resulted not in innovation or progress, but rather in repression of conflicting ideas and free oppression, and have threatened the well-being of large segments of populations. This reality is vivid for many in our diverse community. Mr. Wang cited that the Chinese Communist Revolution resulted in both the eradication of traditional culture and the death of millions of people, specifically those who were anti-revolution received the death penalty. Since the retirement of the colonial mascot, the school committee has boasted that it will find a new mascot reflective of the school district's core values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Here was your chance to address your concern, and no reaction. When Mr. Wang, who is the only school committee member representing the Asian community, which accounts for a quarter of Acton's population, addressed his concern, no one from the school committee showed any curiosity or empathy toward his position. What is the reason for the rush to adopt a new name which sacrificed inclusivity? Did any of you reach out to him after the meeting to further understand his point of view? It's important to note that the mascot subcommittee, which was hand-selected by Superintendent Light, lacked diversity and included no members from the Asian community. The hypocrisy displayed by this committee and administration is astounding. Secondly, at the last meeting, Ms. Krista Murphy, referencing colonial mascot supporters, said, quote, "There are still going to be people who believe lies and conspiracy theories. It's not true, but it doesn't matter," end quote. What is true, Ms. Krista Murphy, is that you and other committee members have admitted in writing to the Attorney General that you were texting throughout the October 15th, 2020 meeting retiring the colonial mascot. However, you continue to defy multiple orders from the Secretary of State's office to produce these text messages, which are public records and were originally sought via public records request in November of 2020. In regards to conspiracy theories, do note following the December 17, 2020 Zoom bombing incident, you were one of the first elected officials to publicly accuse colonial mascot supporters of being responsible for the attack. Records request revealed that you joined with other elected and public officials to peddle this false claim in an effort to maliciously silence colonial supporters. When the police investigation revealed the Zoom bomber had no connection to the Acton Boxborough community, no member apologized to those falsely accused. Ms. Krista Murphy, you are the last person who should be giving lectures about lies and conspiracy theories.
I asked for this to be civil, Mr. Benson.
Time.
No, no, but we did ask for this to be civil. It's not worth it. But I did ask for this to be civil. I would like the record to show that I did ask for this to be civil, and Mr. Benson did not comply with that. Marie.
Good evening, everyone. I, too, am substitute teaching tonight. Peter could not be with us. So I'm going to give a brief superintendent update, and I'm going to focus on hiring. We are heavy duty in the hiring season. So far, we've hired 20 educators to start with us either over the summer or in the fall. We've had lots of changes in administration, and so I'm going to kind of go through some of those. You've seen some of this along the way, but so at Gates, I think you know that Allison Warren, who is a longtime junior high assistant principal and has been the assistant principal at Gates for the last couple of years, has been appointed the principal. So effective July 1st, she'll be the principal when Lynn Newman retires, so a couple weeks left. And they have hired Kate Worth. She will be joining Acton Boxborough as the assistant principal of the Gates School. At Conant, again, you know that Val Granzowitz was appointed the principal in February, and Allison Leahy has been hired to be the assistant principal at Conant. Allison has been a longtime special educator in the district as well as an assistant principal. I'm sorry, a special ed coordinator. At Douglas, Lucia Sullivan has been an interim this year. She's going to continue next year. She is in the process of hiring an assistant principal because assistant principal Jenna Lareniga has been appointed to be a principal in another district. We will miss Jenna, and Lucia will be announcing the assistant principal soon. At Merriam, Juliana Schneider is leaving at the end of the year, and we're working on hiring an interim principal for Merriam. At the junior high school, Jim Marcotte has been appointed the principal. Assistant Principal David Lawrence has accepted a principal position in another district. Congratulations to David. And we have hired a new assistant principal. His name is Anthony Zhang, and he will be joining Acton Boxborough this summer as an assistant principal. And I keep going. At the high school, Fred Hone, who is one of our deans of students, he's returning to teaching full-time at the high school. He's a longtime science teacher. And so we have hired a new assistant principal. His name is Chris Ocampo, and he'll be joining as well this summer. We'll be welcoming 3 new special ed coordinators. You might remember as part of the budget process, we expanded our special ed coordinators. So we have hired Rebecca Comiskey. She'll be supporting Merriam and Conant as a special ed coordinator. We are in the process of hiring a special ed coordinator for McCarthytown. And we recently learned that special ed coordinator at the high school, Susan Hervé-Bollmiller, is going to be retiring. And we are in the process of hiring a special ed coordinator for the high school. A couple more. So our director of pre-K to 12 visual arts, Leo Mullner, has taken a position in a different district, and we have posted for a replacement for the director of visual arts. David James, who is our director of physical education and health, is going to return to a full-time teaching position in the district, and we are in the process of hiring a director of physical education and health. And then lastly, you know that Jen Faber has been hired as the director of DEI effective July 1st. And we have hired the new executive assistant to the superintendent to replace Ms. Petter when she retires. Her name is Julie LaLumiere, and she's coming from Lexington. She's been a long time assistant to the principal at Lexington High School. Beth will, though, continue to be at these meetings and take minutes, et cetera, and Julie will be supporting the committee in other ways, along with the superintendent. So we look forward to Julie starting. She'll be overlapping some days in June and start officially July 1st. So that's a lot of hiring. Again, we've hired 20 new educators. 7 of the new educators so far are educators of color, including 3 assistant principals. So we're really excited about that. So we still have several more coming over the next few weeks, and as you know, things happen over the summer. So in late August, early September, we'll do a full staffing report and give you a lot more detail, and you'll see sort of the bios of all the new folks. But we're very excited. We've hired really great people, and looking forward to next year. Almost. Not quite yet. But thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Any discussion or questions about that update? Nobody? Crickets?
So I'm really sorry to see Beth go. I'm glad that you're going to get a break. I know, at least since I've been on the committee the last 8 years, it's been, you've just poured your heart and soul into it. I know no one can take your place, but I'm very happy someone is willing to try, and I look forward to seeing you at meetings.
I echo that, indeed. All right, friends. Marie, would you like to introduce the ABSAF members?
Yes, please. Come on forward. Why don't you folks come over to either the presentation table or the microphone or
wherever you want. How about here? Is this good? Does this work? Okay. I think it's on. Is it on? Ooh, it's on. All right,
So hang on,
here's-
Shelley, let me do a quick.
Yeah.
So there's a memo in your packet with some background about ABSAF. They have been generously donating to the district for over 40 years. And even through COVID, with a lot of creativity, there's been a lot of work done to make sure that they can support student activities in athletics and performing arts in the district. So Shelley Moore is our president of ABSAF, and Shelley, if you would introduce everyone you have with you, that would be awesome.
Sure, I'll have everyone introduce themselves. How's that? But I will say, just for people who don't know, just to elaborate on Marie's description, so ABSAF stands for the Acton Boxborough Student Activities Fund. And you may have seen things called ABSAF passes and things for sporting events or going to theater events. And basically, we're a group that raises funds to be able to donate back to the school system to help defer the costs of student activities for not only athletics, but also academic clubs, drama, music, everything. Without these donations, some activities would be much harder for families to be able to afford for their students to be able to pursue these activities. And we pride ourselves on trying to be able to help, in that way. We're also unique in that our board is made up not only of adult members, but also student members. I have 2 of them here with me tonight. Many of them actually are involved tonight in the activities that they're part of, sports, athletics, there's a chorus concert I heard, so there's a lot of stuff going on, fundraisers. for the mentoring program, et cetera. So we have a big group. We fill this whole room with our meetings, and these are passionate kids who are not only fundraising, but they're also learning about student government. So we run our program in the same kind of method that you do these school committee meetings, and it helps our students get a flavor for how to run those meetings and that parliamentary process. Okay, so we raise this money, we give it to the school committee as an honorarium, basically, and then the individual groups at the high school and junior high decide how to allocate those funds. And so that's what we're here to do today, is to present our check. Let these guys introduce themselves. Why don't you start? You're one of our newest members.
Yeah, hi. My name is Dhruva Iyer. I'm a current freshman in ABRHS. Next year I'll be a sophomore.
Can we just ask, can you guys come to the mic?
Yeah,
Just
go to the
because
mic.
we're on
Yeah.
cable and they can't hear at home if you're not in the microphone.
Yeah.
Hi,
Yeah.
hi. My name's Dhruva Iyer, and I'm a freshman at ABRHS.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Preeti. I am new to the ABSAF, but I'm really thrilled to be here today with the old-timers and the experts, but I will learn, hopefully, and it's a good place to be in here.
We're glad you joined, so thank you. I'm Trish Hashem. I'm the vice president, and I had a great time working with all the kids, and I'm excited that we were able to raise as much money as we did. So let's see what we do with it.
Hi, I'm Sarah Sahajian, and I'm a sophomore at the high school.
Hi, my name is Claudine Sahajian. I'm Sarah's mom, and I've been on the ABSAF committee for several years now, so we look forward to hearing what you do with the funds.
So this year, we were able to raise money not only through the sales of passes and things, but you may have eaten one of our loaves, you may have bought some of our pansies, there's a bunch of other things. We have these really amazing bucket hats that you would all look splendid in. I should have brought some. We do take Venmo, so, maybe on the way out, I don't know. But we were able to pull together enough funds to run our organization, which is a nonprofit, and then as well to donate our, do you want to do drum roll? Our $50,000. Come together. All right, let's get a photo. Come on in. Come on in.
So we do need to take a picture, so Beth's doing it in, all right. Substitute teachers included.
Yeah. Maybe we'll move the microphone. Can I do that?
Okay, they didn't tell me that as a substitute teacher I'd be in photos. I'm glad I put on a cute outfit. All right, y'all. Any discussions, questions about this generosity before I accept a motion for this generous check that we have to hopefully accept? Hi, Amy.
Thank you so much. Our kids, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the hard work and the fact that this is going to go back to our students. And I know my kids really benefited a lot from the different activities, and not all sports, theater, band. I could not begin to thank you enough. So thank you for all your work.
I second that. It's hard to do this in this environment, and to bring that astounding number back to our student community is phenomenal, and it is a reflection of, I'm sure, many hours and some sleepless nights and some worries in between. So thank you so much for this. It is everything. Other comments? I would love to accept a motion.
Motion to gratefully accept this brilliant donation of $50,000 from the ABSAF.
So that was Andrew made the motion, Tessa seconded, and I think we get to take a vote. So all those in favor, thank you so much. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody who opposes? Anybody abstaining? Very good. I think that passed unanimously. Have a good evening, y'all. All right, with that, I am so delighted to welcome Amanda Bailey. I see you, Amanda, I know. Kyra Lafferty and Abe Gutierrez, yes, who co-chair SEPAC. They are here to present their spring update. Welcome, y'all. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Come on.
Having us here. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. I'm Kyra Lafferty. This is Amanda Bailey, Abe Gutierrez, and we represent the Acton Boxborough Special Education Parent Advisory Council. So our mission on a local level consists of making sure that children with disabilities are entitled to an appropriate education. The SEPAC is actually grounded in state law, as this organization is required of every school district in the state of Massachusetts. And part of that mission that we're charged with is making sure that we are advising individuals and groups and administrators in the planning, development, and evaluation of the school district special education program. So it's wonderful to be here tonight to put a face to all of your names who we've met and some we haven't, and we're happy to kind of work with you in the future, and we hope to be in really close contact when we're talking about these different programs.
So for the new committee members, welcome. For the visual learners, we have this. This means the SEPAC has both an advisory and a participatory role regarding all of the things on the right there: policies, programs, practices, and services. We take individual experiences to inform and then make an impact. We're truly better together.
So up here you'll see our 2021-2022 priorities. These were made with our broader membership, and so each year we hold a meeting and we talk to people about what's important to them. These are parents. The SEPAC consists of parents of children with disabilities and also any other interested individual, but it's generally parents that are making these goals. So relationship building with new administrators, one of whom's here tonight, Jennifer Truslow, who is in constant communication with all of us. We've really had a chance to meet her and spend a lot of time with her, probably too much time, to be totally honest. We're a little lengthy in our meetings, so we apologize for that. But the next one, address and remove barriers to SEPAC participation. I think one of the only benefits of this pandemic was this wide adoption of Zoom. Parents of children, especially small children with disabilities, are kind of, we're spread a little thin, right? I think we can all agree to that. So it's difficult sometimes to come in person to these meetings, right? But Zoom has been a wonderful thing that we've had many different faces come to the meetings. The next one, gather stakeholder feedback, particularly with the children in the substantially sub-separate programs in schools. So that's something that we'll have more information for you all soon with a survey that's just gone out that's yielding lots of great responses. The next one, the dyslexia recommendation, one thing the SEPAC has done actually is next week, there will be a meeting with Jen Truslow, and Deb Bookus, who's right over here, and there were some dyslexia recommendations made in 2020, And the three of us will hopefully sit down and meet and go over what's happened in the last couple of years and what's left to do. The next one, extended school year for many of our families. This is one of the big items that people spend a lot of time thinking about, planning for, and holding continuous conversations to make sure that families know what's to be expected, what's happening, who's eligible, who's maybe not eligible. The next and the last one are some workshops, and they did take place this year. There was lots of great workshops. Amanda has really spearheaded those workshops and scheduled them with fantastic people. So even if you don't have a child with a disability with special education needs, they're fantastic workshops from some really great people. And the last thing that I forgot on the removing barriers to SEPAC participation, and to thank Amanda one more time on this item, because I think that one of the barriers to something like leadership within a SEPAC is to have someone to kind of apprentice under, and for anyone listening that's just vaguely interested in a leadership role within the SEPAC, it would behoove you to come in while Amanda is here to guide you and teach you, because just absolutely phenomenal human.
This, okay, good. Yep. Okay. All right, so much for avoiding anything awkward. All right, now in regards to relationship building from the SEPAC, with our new administrators, we've actually had monthly meetings with Jen Truslow, the Director of Special Education, as well as we participated in the search for the new DEI Director, Jen Faber. We've also have a staff recognition form that has been sent out to highlight positive stories, as there have been. It's a lot easier to remember and focus on negative situations or experiences where a lot of positive points can be easily overlooked. For families, we've actually held listening sessions along with Jen Truslow, Director of Special Education. We had a kindergarten social that was held, as well as a continuum of supports workshop. This was a workshop to make families aware of resources they may not have known before. The SEPAC has had joint PTO participation, as well as established a connection with the DEI Family Advisory Group, Family Advisory Leadership. Additional efforts and events are the fall playground meetup and as well as social media outreach via Facebook included. And further exposure of the SEPAC was helped with the Acton in Focus interview as well, to kind of help everyone in general know about the SEPAC and what the SEPAC, how the SEPAC can serve. We do, the SEPAC also does communicate with area SEPACs as well. We don't really operate in a vacuum. Communication is actually a key point among the different SEPACs. There was a leadership meeting last summer, and we jointly hosted workshops, including the understanding of the IEP, and we participated in both regional and statewide leadership groups, as well as holding memberships in both MassPAC Plus and the SPAN SEPAC.
So forming connections with parents that are able to attend SEPAC meetings and parents that are not able to attend SEPAC meetings of children with disabilities is really important to us as a group, and I think that we've made some real headway this year. And for example, Conant has requested the SEPAC to speak at a PTO meeting. McCarthy Town has a newly formed DEI committee that, as part of that meeting, had requested, advice on speakers. And I think that these types of, Blanchard has requested children's literacy, playground accessibility advice, and then just different relationship building opportunities as part of, have come out with the new administrators around the district, but also through the joint PTO meetings that the SEPAC has graciously been invited to each month. And this is something that, we can't operate in a vacuum, as Abe said. So kind of being in the room for the decisions that are being made for public events that that children with disabilities, might be better accommodated to attend has been really critical, and that's something that's happening in our schools, and we're really thankful to be part of those conversations because, we all want the same thing. Every child wants to attend these events and be fully included, and it's been fantastic to see the kind of culture really shifting on a national level and folks reaching out to make sure that all of our kids are included in these types of efforts.
So we've already mentioned the listening sessions a couple of times. These were initiated by Jen as part of her entry into the school district, and we welcome the opportunity to introduce our organization to family members, as well as hear from folks from the early childhood program, elementary, junior high, high school, and out-of-district communities. We were then able to sort of nimbly address some of the themes that came up, again, through workshops, through discussions and resources at meetings, and we're going to be gathering more through our survey. I want to underscore that the themes that we heard were present pre-pandemic, but they've really come up to a boiling point in some cases and really been exacerbated as a result.
So we've touched over lots of these different things, but the early childhood themes that we're seeing as being very important to parents of children with disabilities is that critical transition from early intervention into the early childhood program, and then from the earlyhood child program to kindergarten. It's really difficult sometimes how to advocate and what to ask for when you've never seen a child go through those years, right? So you don't know what your kindergarten first grader is going to encounter, so you don't necessarily know what to ask for, to help them get through those. So those are themes that are coming up often. In our last meeting with Jen Treslow, it sounds like much more summer meetings are happening, and there's an emphasis on making sure that those handoffs are going to be really intentional, and we're so excited to hear about that. Switching over to the elementary school, so social emotional support is an enormous issue, right, across the country. I think we're reading and seeing that everywhere, and we're not, that's very much happening in our own schools, and we're hearing about it, we're talking about it, and I think that there is a presentation later today that we'll hear more about this, so we're excited for that. Overall communication is something that we're hearing lots of feedback on. There's, great success stories, and then there's some areas for growth. The awareness and understanding of differences to foster inclusion and prevent bullying. So I think that this key item is on talking to children, talking to parents about how to appropriately include, and that's something that this committee, last time we spoke in the fall, very astutely asked us about how to maximize inclusion and what our thoughts were on that, and that's something that's happening, and we're really glad to be part of that conversation.
From our junior high and high school families, we heard a lot about executive functioning preparation at the elementary level. There is no set executive functioning methodology or curriculum, and no homework. So our kids are not necessarily practicing and embedding those skills early on. We heard more about bullying, again, transitions from program to program and year to year. I want to underscore that we have had consistently glowing positive program and staff-specific feedback, particularly at the junior high. Phenomenal team there. Meaningful inclusion, again, social emotional. I think at the high school, we particularly heard about 504 plans, which are accommodation plans under civil rights law, not necessarily being understood by staff. Transition assessments and post-secondary planning for life after high school, and then, of course, the concept of one for some. Still me. Out-of-district themes. So of all of the groups of families who've been impacted by the pandemic, our out-of-district families have, in particular, experienced hardship. These are our students with most intensive support needs and complex profiles. They've been particularly plagued by transportation issues, and that's regarding a statewide driver shortage, staff shortages and turnover in those private placements. There's a strong desire for community and inclusion in our towns of Acton and Boxborough. Again, transition planning for post-secondary, and again, caregiver stress and isolation and sibling supports. These families were isolated before the pandemic, but this has just been tragic. I'll use the word tragic. People were actually so thrilled just to be in the listening session. They were exchanging contact information, just so thrilled just to be there with one another.
So our objectives have, the top three objectives of our surveys are firstly to solicit information from our entire community. Having a child or children with disabilities can be very overwhelming to families, caregivers, guardians. So to have feedback and provide a voice to these families is very important. Where we aim to facilitate participation and ensure that our efforts represent all children with disabilities, be they physical disabilities or learning disabilities or any others. Secondly, our surveys are a source of feedback from families regarding their personal experiences. In turn, the SEPAC is able to provide that feedback as well as some guidance to the district, and again, to facilitate communication between special needs families and school district. Thirdly, our surveys provide a follow-up on previously reported issues, and this is not only of your surveys, but also through anecdotal reporting as well. In addressing and removing barriers to SEPAC leadership and participation, our meetings are held online. They are all recorded and they are available as public record for everyone to view and access. As we know, with busy schedules, sometimes it's not always feasible for everyone to participate. We have gained additional exposure via different medium with the Acton in Focus interview. Again, touching back on that, that helped to really bring light to a resource that maybe outside of special needs families, everyone is able to learn about. Maybe somebody may know someone that may be in need of it, whether it be our district or perhaps in a different community. Touching back on our surveys, they've actually been bolstered with a demographic question regarding race and ethnicity, in addition to actually being translated in other languages to address families where English may not be the primary language spoken at home. We've also established a connection with the district DEI Family Advisory Group as well.
We're coming up on the end, I promise. Other accomplishments this year, you may remember us from such budget processes as. So we did work closely around the budget this year and advocated with you all for disability-related items. We've continued to participate in statewide initiatives, including the ongoing IEP Improvement Project. We've tracked district progress toward addressing the significant disproportionality finding of Black students being over-identified with communication disabilities. And Jen's been very good about following up with us about that. We've also been tagging up with the administration on questions regarding absenteeism, progress reporting, transportation again, and confusion over what is an IEP, a 504, and what is the DCAP. I think it's really important to note, again, that this has been the hardest year of the pandemic for all, for staff, for administrators, for families. And so, again, you know, they're all relationship building years, but this one in particular was critically important to establish those, and well as with all of you. So we do welcome conversations over the summer to get to know you for the new members, but also just to follow up with older members.
Now, for upcoming events, next week on the 15th, we have the annual meeting, as well as officer elections at the junior high library. We'll also have a parent-guardian social held beforehand at 6:30 p.m., and the meeting itself beginning at 7 p.m. And with that, as always, thank you to Jen Truslow and Dr. Light, who I know isn't present tonight, but as well as to all of you, the AB School Committee, for all of your ongoing collaboration and support. We're really, really thankful for this relationship, and we look forward to continue having it grow. And are there any questions?
I don't get to sit at the mic that often, so I'm going to take advantage. But Amanda, Kyra, and Abe, thank you for all your tireless efforts on behalf of our students and our families, and your collaboration. And to our Director of Special Education, Jen Truslow, for your collaboration and hard work. And the partnership is visible and is making a difference. So thank you all.
I just want to add to that you are all three amazing humans. I'm just glad that that was said, but then I wanted to be on the record that all three of you are amazing humans. Hi, Evelyn.
Hi. So I know, Amanda, you highlighted out-of-district kids, and I can echo enough how much those parents that have to seek care for their kids out of this district really are heading. And I don't know, I mean, you highlighted it, but you didn't offer anything around how we can help these people. Because I hear about it all the time, and, you know, families they don't have transportation, it's impacting their jobs, you know, it's impacting families. It's a real situation that we should find a way to address.
Thank you for that. I think a lot of this has been around connecting families with one another to be able to support one another and share their experiences and their resources. So to combat that isolation and put them in contact with a support network first and foremost. As far as transportation, I would leave that to Jen to speak to and what the district has done to try to alleviate that. It's been absolutely devastating this year, and I'll say statewide, but also definitely for local families, they're suffering. So I don't know if Jen would like to contribute anything to that at this point or come back. I don't want to put her on the spot, but transportation, what you've done? I mean, yeah, I mean,
So I mean, the transportation issues we've been dealing with. Well, first of all, thank you. Hi, I'm Jennifer Truslow, Director of Special Education. We have been working with families around the difficulties around transportation. We have our primary vendors, but we've reached out to multiple vendors. We're constantly searching for ways to help families transport their students. And CASE has been terrific. CASE Collaborative, that does the bulk of our transportation, is constantly looking for new drivers as well. So we've done our best. We can always do better, but it's been an ongoing struggle. We've looked for partnerships with other districts. If a student is going to a particular school, we look to see if we might be able to partner and get on their vans and things like that. But it's definitely our highest priority headed into the summer and into the fall. And we've actually gotten some really promising information that we're hoping to be able to cover more of the routes that haven't been able to be covered this year.
So I have a follow-up to that. I don't know what the rules are about. Is there opportunity for people to find other means of transportation rather than using the vendors and the CASE passes? Because, there are families that this is really impacting, and especially families of color in this district that really do not even have family members here to support them or help them take care of their kids or drive their kids. Not everybody has a sister or mother or dad living close by. People come from different countries, different places, and those are the people that this is really impacting. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if there's an opportunity for people to find another means to transport their children, or whether they have to go with the vendors that the school provide. I mean, we have to think innovatively and creatively about how to solve this problem. There's a workforce shortage everywhere. Mm-hmm. I work in healthcare. I'm 40% down. I can't even recruit. So I know that you guys are feeling the pain as well. The district is not any different. COVID has really impacted recruitment and workforce. So we have to be innovative and creative about how we do this.
Right, absolutely. And we do look at every possible option, but we also are very cognizant of the fact that we are transporting some of our most vulnerable learners, and there are certain rules and supports for them and supervision that is required while they're being transported. We have had some families look into, things like Uber and those kinds of things, but we can't put a 5-year-old in an Uber that's unaccompanied. So parents have been really creative. We have been working as teams to really think about things, but there are definite rules that we do need to follow before putting a student in, a private car or a taxi service or things like that. We do have some medically fragile students who require nursing, so we've been able to find nurses to support, but there are also rules around using ambulances and what we can and can't do there if we need to transport students. So I appreciate that, and we, if anyone has any additional creative ideas, please send them my way, but we are, hoping to be able to cover more of the routes that we weren't able to cover this year with our numerous vendors that we work with and our partner schools.
Other discussion and questions? So I have one, Amanda. We have what will end up being a bubble of students, right? Our youngest students who started during this pandemic, started their early school careers during this pandemic, who will see an echoing of need from now until they graduate. Those needs will morph and change as they get older. Hopefully we will be able to catch some things with interventions. But I guess what I'm asking is, what would you like us as a committee and us as a district to think about for this bubble of students who are students who have been identified with special needs, but also those who are in that cohort who will be identified with special needs as we go?
Thank you for that question. So I want to note here that the early intervention referrals and numbers were down over the pandemic because kids weren't in front of pediatricians to make those referrals for the birth to 3 programs. So early intervention is critical. It's our best front line, and it was missed for many kids. So then, of course, they're hitting our preschools and our local daycares and nursery schools. So then now we're bringing them in as kindergartners, and Jen can speak to the wave of evaluations that took place as they were coming in. The other population that is forgotten is our transition age students coming out of the high school who missed critical years of transition planning. That's pre-employment, that's college readiness, that's life in the community that was just missed entirely. So it's actually on both ends that we're seeing this wave rock through, and we're going to be seeing it for years. You're exactly right. So I think it's bearing that in mind as you approach budgets, that these students are going to continue to have needs, and they're going to morph and change, as you've noted, Kyra, particularly around social emotional well-being and behavior. And I think the district is taking a number of steps. I wish Peter were here to report on that tonight. But definitely something to watch, and just to keep in mind that to not forget our kids, our babies, and our older students also.
We only get to see them this one time, y'all. Y'all sure you don't have any questions? I know it's late in the season, but I'm just saying, these 3 great humans came to see us. So any other questions before I let them go? Yes, ma'am.
So we did plan on reporting on our district goals tonight, and we have postponed that to next week because I think it's really important for Peter to be here for that. But we do have lots of things happening in the SEL area that you're going to hear about that's really promising and helpful. But we're definitely aware of, what kids are experiencing in families, and you'll be hearing a lot more about our responses next week. So.
Hi, Tessa.
I have a random question, and I don't know if it's something that you can follow with data, but I'd be curious to know, we've talked a little bit about how we are losing students, or we have increasing numbers of students going to places like charter schools and voc techs and whatnot. And I would be really curious if there's any way to know what percentage of those students are on IEPs.
you can actually go and look up the number of students with IEPs at Minuteman Tech, and you can compare it, and you can sort of go backwards. We may be able to track that more internally through talking to these fine folks, but historically, Minuteman had half of their students with IEPs, and that number's come down a little bit. So, great question. Likely that data exists.
We can work on trying to pull that. We do know we have had more kids go to charter schools than in the past, as well as Minuteman. We do think a big push for Minuteman had to do with the new building and the programming available to students with that. And you're right, it's come down. It was 50–55% for many, many years before the new building. But we'll take a look at that and see what we can get you.
Ooh, I'm curious about that too. Okay, I would just invite our new members, please reach out. You know, SEPAC is these leaders are amazing, and they are so full of wonderful knowledge, and they do inform us quite a bit. And I look forward to summer conversations. I guess my last question is, I see you have a June 15th meeting for new families to AB who might be moving in this summer. Where can they find you? How can they find you? Just give us that information one more time.
So our contact information is at the bottom of this slide, and our hope is at the beginning of the school year, the district does send out an email communication introducing the SEPAC with our links, our contact information, a way to join our mailing list. So they'll be welcomed as they come in from the district itself with an email, typically. So we're gonna, yeah.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much. All right, moving right along. We are going to welcome our high school principal, Joanie Dean. Joanie, I feel like this is the third meeting in a row that we're seeing you. Does that sound about right?
Yes, are you sick of me yet?
No, not sick of you. I'm just making note of the superhero efforts here toward the end of the year. Nope, you gotta turn on your mic.
Okay, there we go. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Good evening. Yes, I've been here a few meetings in a row, a few important topics, and tonight it's the handbook. So try to make that as interesting, as exciting as possible.
Yes, indeed. Marie, do you have something you want to say about this? No? Okay, good.
Yep. Okay, so first, I would just like to say we had graduation last week, and we graduated 444 seniors, and I want to say congratulations to the class of 2022. They really had a lot to do with the spirit of our high school and leading it through a pandemic. And so congratulations to the graduates, and thank you. I guess I'd also just say that this has been an interesting, challenging, and I'll even say supportive school year. And I'd just like to say thank you to all the educators and staff across the district for all that they have done. All right, on to the high school handbook. We have two proposed changes for the high school handbook next year. They are mostly, I would say, and I'll go through them in summary form, from a perspective of clarifying and possibly slightly mechanical in nature. So before I get into exactly what they are, I'd just like to share a little bit about reasonings of why there are only two and what are some of our thoughts about future work on the handbook. So, as you know, as I said before, as you all know, as your children know, as students know, as educators know, as the world knows, this has been a very interesting year, right? And we have been focusing on, of course, supporting students and educators through it. And in doing so, I think that a comprehensive look at the handbook, especially in my first year, wasn't possible. And so we have plans to do that over the course of the next 1 to 2 years. I would say that beginning next fall, we're really going to have a committee of both educators and students look at our handbook. And this will be in coordination with our NEASC process. So we're going to go through a NEASC accreditation process, which will culminate in October of 2025. Sorry?
Can you just tell us what NEASC
Yeah.
is for the lay folk who are
Yeah,
listening?
you know, there's a lot of acronyms here, and I'm also getting used to them. So I think NEASC stands for New England Association of School. What would it be, Marie? Okay. Yeah, so it's our accreditation agency, right? And so they're going to accredit a high school to just say that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, right? And so that whole process has actually evolved and changed, and that's not actually the purpose of what I'm talking about now, but it is much more based on mission, vision, values work and portrait of a graduate and thinking about what we really want our students overall to be gaining through their high school experience. And so we are going to go through that process as a high school and really focus on looking at our mission, vision, values, portrait of a graduate work over the course of the next 2 years. And I think that that work will be really instrumental, of course, to then shed light on what changes and different perspectives we should be looking at our handbook through, if that makes sense. And so I just want to highlight that is work that is coming up. And so the 2 changes that you'll see tonight are not sweeping or comprehensive, and I just want to acknowledge that there's a lot of work to be done. Okay? So I will say that along that same line, one thing that you'll note or you'll notice about the handbook, and there have been a couple comments since we posted the specifics about it to school committee, that the handbook reads in a certain way, and we certainly want to look at our handbook through a more restorative lens, through restorative practices, not just disciplinary and consequences, but also what are we doing in those situations to help educate and actually implement restorative practices. And so I will say right now tonight that even though some of those things are not codified in our handbook, I have seen great movement even over the course of this year in many of our meetings and our interactions and our support around consequences, that not only are there consequences, but there are also program developed, supported mechanisms for individuals and groups of students to receive not only education, individual education, and also restoration around certain events that happen. So I've seen that in practice, even though I wouldn't say it's exactly codified just yet in our handbook. And of course, that's work, like I'm saying, to be done over the course of the next couple of years when we look at this as a committee with students and teachers, and then also through our NEASC accreditation process. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the specifics that I've shared with you. All right, so I will say that there are 2 changes specified, and before I get to those, I should note that the handbook that you see online, if you were to go to our website, the content besides these 2 changes we are proposing will all be the same, though you may notice that there might be a slight reorganization of just some of the topics, putting all the academic pieces together and things like that. So I just want to note that up front. And now the 2 specific changes, the first one is in regards to attendance. So, specifically in the handbook, it's on page 54. What we are proposing is that we take our 3-point deduction for an unexcused absence for any class. We're proposing that we remove that from the handbook. So no academic penalty can be given for an unexcused absences. Instead, we are going to work on, we are going to tabulate our unexcused absences for students quarterly instead of yearly. And right now, there's loss of credit if a student misses 20 classes in a year, either excused or unexcused. We are proposing instead that loss of class credit will be put into effect every quarter, only for unexcused absences, and that will be after 5 unexcused absences. Now, there's 2 points that I want to make about this. First of all, we are limiting this only to unexcused absences. And secondly, we want to follow up more quickly with students, which is one of the reasons to change it from at the end of the year to quarterly, so we can really we really want to follow up with the students and understand what's going on in real time and try to figure out what supports we can put in place if we're noticing that students aren't going to class, right? Actually even possibly help them start to gain credit back as the school year is going on. So while I'm talking about all of this and talking about loss of credit and all of these things, you know, the real intention is to help support students get back to their academics and understand why they're not going to class, right? That's the real intention. We are, and I don't want to get too into this because it would take too much time, but we are going to have more of a team model for administrators and counselors to work with students in the high school next year. And so there'll be groups of one associate principal, associate or assistant principal, two counselors and a campus support person working with a group of 400 students instead of a group of 800 students. And so we're trying to really focus on the needs of the students, and we think that that group of administrators and counselors will be able to follow up better with those individual students on attendance in a quarterly fashion. Okay, so that's the first suggested change. Okay, second suggested change is really clarity around grading for teachers, because there's some confusion on what a medical exemption is and a no grade. So we are, well, first, before the grades, we're asking that the time frame for an incomplete grade be finished at the interim of the next quarter instead of waiting until 2 weeks at the end of the quarter. Of course, if there's an appeal or a student needs more time, that's fine, but we want to help put things in place for students more quickly to finish their work. And then secondly, a no grade will replace the medical grade. And the effect of that grade is the same, but it's just going to provide clarity and less redundancy in our current grading system for teachers and students. And then thirdly, we're going to allow a pass option for students to earn credit in a marking period in which they're actually absent for more than 50% of the classroom instruction, but they finish at least 60% of the work. So we want to offer that for students. So those are the two proposed changes for next year. So I just want to make two more quick comments. There were some comments, as I said, that came in after this was sent to school committee, and I've addressed one a bit, which is a request for more restorative practices and procedures and structures put into place, and I've addressed that a bit in terms of that I do think that we are putting that into practice more than is actually codified within the handbook. And secondly, we have long-term work, both next year in a committee and then through our accreditation process, mission, vision, values work to really incorporate that more in our written documentation. And then the second comment had to do with the excused and unexcused, and you'll note that the attendance policy was amended to only have unexcused absences that would result in loss of credit for a course, not excused as well. The current policy with the 20 over the year has excused and unexcused. Okay, so I think I've covered most of it. Thank you for your attention. Questions? Yeah.
I'm going to open this up to the committee. Any questions? I know that was a lot.
Yeah.
Hi.
So I don't have a question as much as a comment. I really appreciate the approach to restorative actions. I know that the first time I read the handbook, it felt very old school punitive. So I'm really applaud this kind of new focus on, really looking at, because if kids are missing school, unexcused absences, there's probably something going on that needs to be addressed. They don't just need to be punished. I mean, you know what I'm saying. So thank you for that. And graduation was lovely. Thank you so much.
It was great, and congratulations.
Thank you.
And I will say that I completely agree. And I just want to note that also a lot of the language in the handbook has to pass muster in terms of our legal obligations of what we state and share with families, right? And so that will just also take time to include other pieces and have, you know, this supportive and restorative perspective, because we also have to make sure the document is legally up to par, right? So.
Yeah, Joanie, thank you for this. I think that it is a remarkably compassionate way of looking at what can often be some terrible times for kids, regardless of the cause. And I also like that it's something that shows that we're in not quite the after, but getting closer to the after, living with medical issues that will crop up for 5 to 10 days at a time. So I just want to appreciate the approach on this, and also the way that this is just a supportive and well-balanced rule change. So thank you for that, and for making our community a bit better.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you for that presentation. I just say to committee members, when there is the MASC conference in the fall, I actually was able to attend a workshop on the NEASC process, which, like, now I totally understand. And I was like, I thought that the workshop was something completely and totally different, because the description in the book was not so accurate, but I'm glad that I went, because we are about to go through it, and I think it gives you a really good perspective on how some decisions are made at the high school, because it isn't all about like what Joanie wants or what, you know, like Superintendent Light wants, and there's a lot that goes into it. So you should watch and see if MASC offers something like that again, because it was really super informative, and I think as far as we're involved in the process of things, you know, this discussion of Portrait of a Graduate, those of us that have been on the committee for a while know about, but it's probably something totally new to those who are not on the committee and that have 8-year-olds at home. So our committee, for a lot of them, have really young kids. So I do think, especially in that light, it was really informative, and I think it is a huge process, and it's very cool to go through, and I think it's a great idea to wait to do a thorough overhaul of the student handbook until we have a better perspective on where we're going, because you don't want to make all these big changes and then be like, oh wait, that's not what we wanted. So thank you. And graduation was lovely. Yes. My son was like, wow, you get to sit so close. I was like, you have to have one perk, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Joanie.
You're welcome,
and,
Evelyn.
Congrats on your 1-year anniversary
Oh,
at AD.
thank you.
And I just want to echo what my fellow committee members have said about the unexcused absences and the changes that you're making. I think this is really going to benefit Black and brown kids. And I know when we pull the data, they're probably the ones that are not showing up in school for one reason or the other. So I think this digging into the problem before it becomes a problem is what we need to do. And also, you know, putting in restorative practices. Most schools are doing this. You know, kids at that age are not learning anything from people being punished. They just dig their heels anyway. So I think that that's the way to go. So thanks for coming to talk to us about this.
Thank you.
May I ask a question really quick? Does the pass option do anything to the weight of the GPA? Okay, I just want to make sure.
I don't want to say with 100% clarity, but I can't imagine that it does. I'll follow up with you, but I think that would just be a wash, you know, because otherwise that wouldn't make sense. But I'll make sure.
Thank you. Anybody else on the committee before I let former committee members come all up in here and muddy the waters and say things?
Do you want me to time him?
Do you need a timer, Mr. Peterson? Are you going to be cool?
I'll try not to make too much trouble. I wanted to say that, you know, I very much also enjoyed graduation, and I'm sure like many people there was both celebrating what had been accomplished and wondering what might come next. And of course, for the class of 2022, we'll just have to wait to see what comes next. But for the class of 1981, they recently celebrated the fact that Linda Fagan graduated from Acton Boxborough Regional High School and is now the commander of the Coast Guard. So it was a double first. It was the first woman to head one of the branches of the military, but also, I believe, the first ABRHS graduate, but perhaps not the last. And because a number of people have touched on Portrait of the Graduate, I just wanted to emphasize the point that it needs to be a really big picture. Because if it's going to include people who are going to head the Coast Guard, along with everything else, the range of possibilities is just enormous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Hi, Eben.
Hi, Jenny. So I like the idea of check up have every quarter check up with the students and to make sure they don't fail in the last minute. So just some clarification. So I just wanted, so the 5 unexcused absences for a whole year, right? It's not for every quarter.
It's for every quarter, so it would be 20 for the year.
So do you think that's too much? So increase from 3 to 20?
No, I'm sorry, right now it's 20 for the year. And so that pretty much replaces that. The 3-point deduction is something else that is currently in the handbook, but not many teachers still use it, and we're going to take it out. It is that if there is any one missed class, unexcused absence, a student can lose 3 points off their grade, and that's an academic penalty that we don't feel is appropriate as a consequence for missing class. If we go back to the 20 right now, the 20 include excused and unexcused. We're replacing the 5 per quarter with only unexcused. Is that kind of clear it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So can you give examples of unexcused?
Unexcused?
Yeah.
A student is just kind of, hanging out in the cafeteria or possibly in the commons or outside the school instead of going to their designated class. And they don't have a medical reason or an excuse from a parental figure or a guidance counselor or any teacher for why they're missing the class.
For one regular class, how many classes in the total? They should.
So I was just talking about like one class, like
Yeah.
say just my math class or just
Yeah.
my social studies class.
Just-
I mean, a student could be taking between 5 and 7 classes total.
No. For school year, so for example, the math, how many classes the student usually attend?
I'm not sure I quite understand the question, sorry.
So I just wanted to have an idea, is 20 is out of 40? Or what was
Oh,
what
how
is
many,
the total number?
how many class periods are there, say, in a quarter?
In the school year, in the whole year?
I mean, there's 180 school days, right? So I'd say, yeah, I'm sorry, thanks, Marie.
No, it's fine. Do you just turn it off for a sec, please? So there's 180 school days. There's a drop every X number of days. So I believe there are 140 sessions of each class. That's a full year class.
So math will be 140?
Yeah.
And just to follow up on you, but are we talking are you counting by classes or counting by days? Is truancy based on, like, you have 20 days in a year where you could be unexcused? Or are you talking 5 days with 4 classes per day?
Okay, I'm going to try to answer the question again. I'm sorry that if I'm not exactly answering it. But so if I'm going to lose credit, it's going to be for a course or a class. So it's going to be for my science class. So I'm going to look overall, if I have science in the B block, 1 out of every 7 days, it's actually going to drop, right? So I have science B block 6 out of 7 days. I'm going to look at in a quarter. So if that's 140 divided by 4, gosh, what, we have like 40, 30 something classes, 35, right? Have I missed 5 classes unexcused in my biology B block? Did I answer it? Yep.
Hi, actually, just to piggyback off of that, so then with this new proposed change, would you have 5 per quarter per class, or is it all encompassing?
I believe the answer to that question is per class.
Okay.
Because I don't understand it otherwise. Right.
Can I just add, so I do think that was a point of confusion. So if you were to miss a whole day, you'd miss 5 or 6 classes that day, but this applies to 5 of the same class across a quarter.
So if I missed all 5 of my classes that day, it would
That's
be one. It would be one absence, like per each
of
class or
those.
subject. Okay. Thank you. That makes sense.
Because, sorry, go ahead.
To say, you guys all have little kids and you've not ever been in the high school, so you get a call that your kid has not attended class. Yes, and you get an email.
Sounds very efficient. And credits in the high school, you have to have so many to graduate, right? And it's all per course, not like per day you're in school. You don't like, right, so, yeah.
All right, my last thought is about, I just want to be that English person who nitpicks about the word truancy. I don't know actually how this works, and the lawyers might tell us that it has to be the word truancy, but is there a way that maybe we can either define what truancy means or use the word absence or something else? So I'm just thinking about, it's such an old school word and it's a wonky word, and I just wonder if we can be more expansive with our handbook, but that's me being nitpicky.
I will say I had the exact same question, and I actually asked, what did it mean when I first got here? And the answer was, it's an unexcused absence. And yes, I will check in with the lawyers about that. And I often just say unexcused absences. Maybe that's a little longer. I do believe that they are synonymous, and I understand your point, and I'll check that out.
And I'll just add, it is actually a legal term, and there are legal requirements around attending school, and not meeting the legal requirements around attending school is defined to have been truant. We actually have to have truancy officers, but that doesn't mean that word has to be in the handbook, so we will look into it. And just one quick point, this is the first read. You have a second read next week and a vote. But it's great to get the questions and comments out on the table, and hopefully we won't need to have Joanie come back next Thursday.
I've been in so many meetings.
You've been a trooper, and we're really grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will not ask you again to be civil. You may ask your question. I'm just letting you know my expectation.
If there's no longer a punishment for skipping class, what prevents students, I guess, from constantly cutting class? And if the school is in locus parentis of the students, how can we ensure that students are being looked after by the school during the school day?
So there is a consequence. What you're saying is for one unexcused absence, there's not a particular consequence. Right now, the only particular consequence is the 3-point deduction, which I would say is not really being enforced at all. And so on the books, the consequence is after 5 unexcused absences, there's the possibility of loss of credit. There are many other practices and support measures in place, though, that happen on a day-to-day basis. We have our campus support, we have our deans, we have our counselors, we have our associate principals who notice when students aren't where they're supposed to be. And we follow up with them, we try to find out what's going on, we try to figure out how we can support them and get them to class. This year, we instituted a practice in which we called students down to their dean's office after 2 unexcused absences or 3 tardies. Unexcused tardies, and they had a conversation with their dean. We instituted that in about December, January. It really kind of got refined in February, March. And again, the real intention of that was to try to understand what was going on. And if they really were unexcused tardies and absences, we actually assigned a lunch detention to those students in which they were monitored by a campus support person. Again, the intention was with the dean in the conversation beforehand, offer support, coordinate with the counselor, and have a conversation with the campus support person also when they had to go to the room during their lunch. So those things aren't, again, like explicitly in the handbook, but those have been practices that we had this year and that will continue in some form next year.
Thank you.
A quick one.
It's not related to high school. I mean, I just wonder, for the junior high, do we also have such kind of a policy? So I would expect the junior high probably is, the policy on the high school student will be more restrictive than the junior high, because junior high is a junior, right? So they have more excuse.
We're going to go
So
with
I
Maria.
just wonder.
Well, I think the junior high students are scheduled every single class period. So no students really are ever free. Yeah.
I can add a little bit. Thank you, Joanie. That's exactly right. And the junior high is organized in teams of teachers where a group of students share the same teachers. So they are scheduled all day. There aren't free periods. So it's much less likely that a student is not going to show up for a particular class. But when they're absent for the day, again, the families call in and explain why or report them being absent. And if a student isn't there who hasn't been excused, then there's a phone call and so on. So it's a different type of environment, but there's definitely follow-up with kids who aren't there, who are expected to be there.
I would say is it realistic, say, for the ninth grade, we implemented such policy, but for the 10 senior, then we may put a more restrictions?
I mean,
We expect that they grow up, right?
I understand why you're suggesting that, and I think it points to the fact that we do probably need to make sure that ninth graders understand this, especially the difference between junior high and high school. So your point is well taken, and I think that we need to, work with them, because what they've had in the junior high is very different now than in the high school. I would be hesitant to make it more restrictive, though, overall, for 12th graders at least, and especially at this time, because I don't believe that that is what the needs of our students are. I think that we really need to be as supportive and as helpful as possible in that regards.
Okay, you've been a trooper. Thank you so much, Joanie. Have a great night. You do, okay, brilliant. Okay, we are now on to ongoing business. And we have a quick EDCO update from Marie.
So today was the last EDCO board meeting. As Peter's been reporting over the last year or more, EDCO is in the process of dissolving. And so Peter did attend that meeting today. Everything's on track to be completed by June 30th. It's been approved. They're now just awaiting a letter from the commissioner. So it's expected to fully go through. And after June 30th, once it's complete, I think all the the financials have been taken care of, and we're expecting to get back $60,000 to $70,000 after July 1st from what has been paid to them. So it's moving forward, and he just wanted me to give you that update.
Any questions about that? Very good. Thank you, Marie. Okay, subcommittee and member reports. It looks like it's just me. Budget sub met one last time on the 23rd of May. We discussed the FY22 budget status. I will not steal Dave's thunder if he wants to talk about turnbacks, and Mr. Peterson is gone anyway, so I don't think anybody wants to talk about that. Dave is like, no, okay, great. We had a revenue update for FY23, and mostly our conversation was about debriefing around town meeting. I look forward to working with Mr. Schwartz and Amy Krishnamurthy and all the members of this committee next year on working on how we bring the narrative of the budget process to town meeting. We know that educating everyone about the budget on the town meeting floor is not how we do this. There is a narrative that happens all year round. And while I thought we were doing that this year, clearly we did not do that effectively. So we will have a strategy for that next year. And that was the biggest result of that meeting. The budget sub will meet again very early in September 2022 because we know that the next budget cycle will be, I'm going to use the challenging. I think the challenging is the right word. And yet we will persevere and we will deliver and it will be good. So there. All right. On to the consent agenda. Dave, you're looking at me. Did you want to say the thing? Okay, good. Just want to make sure. All right. Consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda do not usually require discussion and are approved with one vote unless any member would like to hold an item for discussion and a separate vote. I will read each item name, and if any member would like it held, please say hold. Members do not have to attend a meeting to vote on the minutes. First item is approval of the ABRSC meeting minutes for May 19th, 2022. Second is approval of remaining FY22 subcommittee minutes, including the budget, capital improvements, community engagement, debt strategy, mascot screening, and policy subcommittees. All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
That was Tessa and Amy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. I believe that was unanimous. Statement of warrants and recommendation to approve. Hi, Tessa.
I move that the school committee vote to approve payroll warrants as follows. Number P224 dated 5/19/2022 in the amount of $2,918,893.89. Number P225 dated 6/2/2022 in the amount of $2,898,712.76. Payroll deduction warrant number 22-024PR dated 5/19/2022 in the amount of $1,184,281.60. Number 22-025PR dated 6/2/2022 in the amount of $579,483.37. Vendor warrant number 22-024A dated 5/19/2022 in the amount of $41,064.53. Number 22-024 dated 5/26/2022 in the amount of $791,041.28. Number 22-024B dated 5/26/2022 in the amount of $3,382.16. Number 22-025A dated 6/2/2022 in the amount of $407.16. Student activity warrant number 22-024JH dated 5/26/2022 in the amount of $12,446.70.
I think we're voting. All those in favor?
Aye.
I believe that was unanimous. Okay, FYI, Marie, is there anything that you would like to highlight in the FYI?
Yes, I know, we're almost done, but, so we have, as you know, 6.5 days of school left. The last day of school is Tuesday, June 21st. Monday is a holiday for Juneteenth. And we are looking forward to getting to the finish line. There is a document in the FYI which lists all of our retirees, and if you will indulge me, I will quickly read them. We have Betty Bricker, Neetza Carlson, Kelly Carter, Susan Bowmiller, Marianne Farron, Betty Foster, Nurse Betty, yes, Lynn French, Ned Gallant, Jackie Gottesman, Rebecca Greeley, Peggy Harvey, Cappy Kelly, Gail Kessler-Walsh, Paula Sage, Jim Maloney, Lynn Newman, Beth Petter, Judy Philbrick, Gay Prosnitz, Brigitte Seeley, Kathleen Smith, Debbie Trench, yes, the famous phone caller, yes,
She gave such a great speech.
Ann Velajnik, and Chris Whitbeck. And I echo, Debbie Trench gave a great farewell speech at graduation. It was phenomenal. So just congratulations to all of those, all of our retirees, and thank you.
This McT mom says, I love you, Nurse Betty, and I will miss you. And this school committee member says, I love you, Beth Petter, and I will miss you. Yes, we will miss all of y'all retirees, so there. Anything else in the FYI? No, okay. So I think that there was something in our packet from food services, yes. In our packet, anybody who's listening, anybody who needs, there is a note that breakfast, lunch, snacks, and drinks will be sold daily from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. in the high school cafeteria again this summer from June 27th to August the 5th, closed on July 4th. For students who are currently receiving free or reduced lunch, their eligibility continues through the summer. For more information, please contact Kirsten Nelson, I'm so sorry. And more information about that is in the packet. I just want to highlight that. I think that's extraordinarily important, and we're really grateful for that service. Our next and last meeting of the school year is next week, next Thursday, June 16th at 7 p.m. Same bat time, same bat place. And will include our school committee reorganization for FY23. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
That was Tessa and Evelyn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? That was unanimous. Thank you so much, everybody.